The morning ritual to rewire your brain for peace and control. That science don't want you to know. You wake up and reach for your phone before your mind is even awake. Notifications flash, dopamine surges, and within seconds your nervous system is already under attack. You haven't even stood up, yet your brain is hijacked by a world designed to control your chemistry before you control your thoughts. That's not an accident. It's a system. One that trains your brain to crave noise, not peace, reaction, not reflection. And the truth is, the more your brain adapts to chaos, the less capable it becomes of experiencing calm. But here's what no one ever told you. Peace is not an emotion, it's a neurological state. It's built, not found. Your brain doesn't stumble upon tranquility. It learns it, wire by wire, chemical by chemical. The same circuits that once built anxiety can be restructured to build serenity. The same dopamine that fuels addiction can become the fuel for focus. The same cortisol that drives stress can become the spark that awakens discipline. What determines which one wins is not chance, it's ritual. Every morning, you have a window, a fragile, sacred moment between unconscious and conscious life. When your brain is the most malleable, it will be all day. This is when your neurons listen. They're waiting for instructions, waiting for you to tell them who to become. But most people hand that moment over to the algorithm, to fear, to comparison, to distraction. They don't realize that their morning habits are not just routines, they're instructions written into the very architecture of their brain. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman calls it neuroplastic direction, the ability to guide the rewiring of your brain through conscious structure. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls it pattern interruption, the act of stopping the unconscious loops that make you feel powerless. Descartes would have called it awakening reason over instinct. Different languages, same truth. You either program your mind, or it gets programmed for you. The science that no one wants you to know is that peace and control are not spiritual luxuries. They are biological designs waiting to be activated. You've been told that calmness is a personality trait, that self-control belongs to the disciplined few. That's false. These are neural networks, and they can be rebuilt through repetition, awareness, and environment. You've been sold stress as productivity, distraction as connection, and anxiety as identity. It's time to challenge that illusion. Because your mornings are not random, they are the control panel of your consciousness. What you do in the first hour determines how your neurotransmitters behave for the rest of the day. A single scroll can spike cortisol for hours. A single breath of presence can reset your nervous system in seconds. The difference between chaos and clarity is measured in micro-choices, not miracles. Imagine waking up and feeling your mind obey you, not your phone, not your fears. Imagine a morning where stillness becomes your default, not stress, where your body and brain align in rhythm, where your inner state isn't dictated by algorithms, but by awareness. That's what this ritual is about. It's not a routine of hacks or habits. It's a neurological revolution, a way to reclaim your peace and control from a system that profits from your disconnection. In this video, you will learn how to reprogram the circuits that keep you restless, how to awaken your parasympathetic calm, and how to build the mental structure that allows focus and peace to coexist. You'll understand the science behind calmness, why sunlight, movement, breath, and intention can literally reshape the chemistry of your brain. You'll see that the battle for peace is not spiritual warfare, it's neurochemical warfare. And victory starts when you wake up with awareness. You are not broken. You are just wired by a world that benefits from your exhaustion. And the truth is, you can rewire it. Every thought, every breath, every decision in the first hour of your day writes the blueprint of your mind. You don't need motivation, you need mastery. Not the illusion of control, but the structure that creates it. Now, it's time to see what really happens when you stop following your habits and start leading them. The hidden program. Why your brain betrays you. Your brain is not against you. It's simply following orders you no longer remember giving. Every reaction, every burst of anxiety, every moment you feel out of control. It's the echo of a program written long ago. Most people believe their mind is chaotic by nature, but that's not true. Chaos is learned. It's practiced. It's rewarded. The same way discipline can be trained, disorder can be conditioned. And it often begins before you even understand what awareness is. From childhood, your brain began to associate stimulation with safety. Every bright sound, every alert, every external validation triggered dopamine, the molecule of anticipation, not satisfaction. Over time, your neural circuits learned a dangerous rule. If I'm not stimulated, I'm not alive. This is the silent addiction of the modern mind, the compulsion for input, the inability to sit with stillness. Each morning when you open your phone, you're not just checking messages. You're activating the same reward system that drives every form of dependency known to neuroscience. The ritual of scrolling has replaced the ritual of centering. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains that your dopamine system doesn't reward you for pleasure itself, but for the pursuit of it. This means your brain constantly searches for what's next, a cycle of almost there that never ends. In survival terms, it kept your ancestors alert and adaptive. But in a digital world, it keeps you trapped in a loop of synthetic urgency. Notifications become micro-doses of control. You feel in charge while being completely managed. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls this the reinforcement trap. The way behavior strengthens when it's followed by momentary relief or reward. The brain doesn't care if the pattern is healthy or harmful. It only asks, did this reduce discomfort? If yes, it repeats it. That's how worry becomes identity. That's how overthinking becomes comfort. That's how anxiety becomes your default operating system. You are not addicted to chaos. You are addicted to the illusion of control that chaos gives. Now think of the mornings when you feel a wave of tension before anything happens. That's your cortisol system anticipating stress before reality delivers it. It's not madness, it's memory. Your nervous system remembers patterns even when your consciousness forgets. The stress you feel at sunrise is often yesterday's unprocessed emotion, replayed chemically. This is why peace feels impossible for many. Their body wakes up in yesterday's battlefield. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience existed. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Today we know this is literal. Repetitive thinking shapes neural pathways through long-term potentiation, the strengthening of synaptic connections. In other words, your brain becomes whatever you repeat. And most people repeat noise. Their inner dialogue is a loop of fear, self-criticism, and resistance, sculpting a brain wired for conflict. But here's the turning point. What has been learned can be unlearned. Neuroplasticity means the architecture of your mind is not fixed, it's responsive. Every intentional thought, every act of awareness, every pause before reaction begins to rewrite the script. Descartes sought truth through doubt, questioning everything until clarity appeared. The same principle applies here. You must doubt your impulses long enough to see whether they serve you or enslave you. That pause is where rewiring begins. The moment you understand that your mind's chaos is not a curse but a code, everything changes. You stop blaming yourself for overthinking and start decoding why your brain chose that pattern. You stop fighting your emotions and begin to read them as signals. You stop searching for peace outside and realize it's a skill that must be trained from within. The system that controls you isn't external. It's neurological conditioning reinforced by repetition and neglect. But awareness disrupts it. When you start observing your habits without judgment, you weaken the cycle that feeds them. When you bring intention into your mornings, you begin to hijack the very mechanism that once hijacked you. The hidden program loses power the moment you stop running it unconsciously. The brain betrays you only when you forget that you wrote the script. The great misdirection. The peace you chase is a trap. You've been told to chase peace, to meditate harder, to breathe deeper, to run away from noise and seek quiet places where your mind can finally rest. But have you noticed how peace seems to vanish the moment you go looking for it? The more you chase calm, the more it escapes you. Because peace isn't something you pursue, it's something you stop interrupting. And the world you live in has been engineered to make that almost impossible. Modern life is built on a paradox. Everyone wants inner stillness, yet everything around you is designed to keep you restless. Every app, every ad, every productivity slogan whispers the same command. Do more, want more, scroll more. The system rewards movement, not presence. It praises constant availability, not inner alignment. You're told to be connected, but that connection often leads to emotional fragmentation. The irony is brutal. The harder you try to find peace in external order, the more internal disorder you create. Neuroscience reveals why this happens. Each notification triggers your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, making your nervous system believe that something urgent needs your attention. You respond, thinking you're solving problems, but in reality, you're reinforcing anxiety. Every reaction becomes a micro lesson your brain learns. Stress keeps me safe. Over time, this rewires your baseline. You begin to feel uncomfortable when things are calm. Silence feels like danger. Stillness feels like failure. That's not peace escaping you. That's your biology misreading safety. This is what I call the peace paradox. You think you want calm, but your system has learned to equate chaos with control. It's why many people can't sit in silence for more than a few minutes without reaching for stimulation. They're not weak, they're conditioned. Their dopamine pathways have been trained to expect spikes of novelty. Their cortisol cycles depend on tension to feel alive. Their entire sense of self is entangled with mental noise. Marcus Aurelius understood this trap 2,000 years ago. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." But to modern ears that sounds poetic, not practical, because the soul is now surrounded by algorithms that know your impulses better than you do. The moment you pause to look inward, the world interrupts. Not because it hates your peace, but because your distraction is profitable. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls this externalization of control. The more you rely on outer systems to regulate inner balance, the weaker your internal regulation becomes. That's why many people can only find peace when scrolling, listening to background noise, or planning the next goal. They're outsourcing serenity. They've mistaken distraction for relief. But peace cannot coexist with dependency. When your nervous system is always seeking escape, your consciousness never learns stillness. Here's the truth most won't accept. Real peace feels uncomfortable at first. It's not the soft calm you imagine. It's a confrontation, the quiet unveiling of every suppressed emotion you've avoided by staying busy. When you remove stimulation, your mind doesn't reward you with bliss. It confronts you with what you've ignored. That's why people say meditation doesn't work, because they expect calm when what they need is clarity. Philosophically, this is the moment Descartes would describe as cogito under pressure. The moment when thought meets resistance and begins to purify itself through questioning. Neuroscientifically, this is your prefrontal cortex taking back control from the limbic system. It's the shift from reaction to observation. It's the hard reset your mind resists, but your soul desperately craves. Peace is not a place you visit. It's a state you earn by dismantling illusions. The illusion that productivity equals worth, that busyness equals meaning, that attention equals love. The world doesn't want you peaceful because a peaceful mind doesn't buy, doesn't compare, doesn't scroll, doesn't react. A peaceful mind chooses. It builds, it notices, it refuses manipulation. That's why true peace is subversive. It threatens the systems built on your confusion. So, when you wake up tomorrow and feel the impulse to reach for your phone, remember this. That impulse isn't you searching for connection. It's your conditioning begging for another hit of control. The more you obey it, the more you lose yourself. The moment you resist it, even for 10 seconds, you begin to rewrite the script. Because peace isn't found through pursuit, it's born through interruption. The ritual you're about to learn will not make you calm instantly. It will make you conscious. And from consciousness, calmness naturally arises, not as a temporary feeling, but as a neurological foundation. The revelation, the morning rewire sequence. Your mind is not built to change in chaos. It changes in rhythm. Every morning, before thought becomes noise, your brain resets its chemistry, ready to learn what peace should feel like. That's when you hold the keys to your internal architecture. But instead of using that moment to program clarity, most people surrender it to autopilot. They open their phones, trigger cortisol spikes, flood their dopamine receptors, and unconsciously hand over the first instruction of the day. I choose distraction. What follows isn't random. It's programmed. The rest of the day obeys that single decision. But what if you use that same window, that delicate neurological blank slate, to rewire yourself? What if peace became not a goal, but a chemical process you designed consciously? This is where the morning rewire sequence begins. It's not spiritual theory. It's neuroscience in motion, built on the same biological mechanisms that anxiety once used to control you. The goal isn't to become emotionless. It's to train emotional precision. The first step is stillness before stimulus. When you wake up, resist movement, light, or thought for a brief moment. Let your body stay between dream and awareness. This moment activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your biological state of safety. Peace begins here, not when the world is silent, but when your body believes it's safe enough to stop defending itself. Breathe slowly, not deeply. Depth triggers effort, while slowness signals control. Your heart rate follows your breath, and your brain follows your heart rate. The second step is cold exposure or controlled breathing. The aim is not discomfort, but calibration. Cold exposure, even just a splash of cold water on your face, resets your dopamine baseline and wakes your prefrontal cortex. Controlled breathing, such as the physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales, 1 long exhale, lowers cortisol instantly. What you're doing here is teaching your nervous system to switch from reactivity to readiness. This becomes your internal switch, from victim of chemistry to architect of it. The third step is gratitude journaling. Not as emotional decoration, but as neural reorientation. When you write what you're grateful for, you force your brain to scan for safety instead of threat. This activates the prefrontal cortex and suppresses the amygdala, the region responsible for fear responses. Neuroscience shows that consistent gratitude practices physically strengthen neural pathways associated with optimism and emotional regulation. Gratitude is not positivity, it's neuroplastic training against anxiety. The fourth step is movement and sunlight. Movement increases endorphins and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a molecule that acts like fertilizer for your neurons. Sunlight, within the first hour of waking, synchronizes your circadian rhythm and balances serotonin levels. You're not just energizing your day. You're literally telling your body, it's safe to be alive. That biochemical message translates into emotional stability throughout the day. The final step is visualization and intention. Before you begin your routine, take 1 minute to visualize yourself moving through the day with clarity, not perfection. Focus on tone, not detail. How do you want to feel walking into uncertainty? Calm, focused, present? Your brain can't distinguish between imagination and reality. It will begin releasing the same neurotransmitters associated with those feelings. This is where Descartes' rational reflection meets modern neurochemistry. By thinking, you are creating. Each intentional thought rewires the synaptic pattern that defines who you become. Together, these steps form more than a routine. They're a neural narrative. Stillness grounds you in safety. Cold resets alertness. Gratitude trains emotional direction. Movement anchors energy. Visualization redefines identity. Do this for 7 days, and you'll begin to notice that peace stops feeling like a fragile mood and starts feeling like your new default chemistry. Andrew Huberman calls this self-directed adaptation. Aristotle would have called it habit as virtue. Both point to the same truth. Structure doesn't restrict freedom, it creates it. By consciously shaping your mornings, you're no longer reacting to your biology, you're leading it. Every repetition ingrains this new map deeper into your neural circuitry. Within weeks, your stress triggers will begin to fade faster, your focus will last longer, and your internal dialogue will shift from chaos to command. You'll realize that peace was never missing. It was buried under untrained patterns. This ritual is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the noise began. You are not chasing peace anymore. You're building it, neuron by neuron, sunrise by sunrise. The philosophical bridge, from discipline to freedom. Most people misunderstand discipline. They see it as a cage, a set of rigid rules that steals spontaneity. But in truth, discipline is not the opposite of freedom. It's the foundation of it. Without structure, the mind becomes a slave to impulse. Without order, thought fragments into chaos. The discipline you resist is often the very thing that liberates you from invisible chains. Because freedom is not the absence of control, it's the mastery of it. When René Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," he wasn't glorifying thought. He was demanding awareness. To think consciously is to step out of automatic living. That's the essence of discipline, the act of waking up within your own mind. You are not meant to obey every emotion that rises, nor to suppress them blindly. Discipline teaches you to hold emotion in your hands long enough to see where it comes from. It's not repression, it's recognition. It's the ability to say, "I feel this, but I am not this." Modern neuroscience agrees. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational control, grows stronger with intentional repetition. Each time you resist distraction or choose presence, you activate the neural pathways of self-command. Over time, that practice transforms into identity. What once felt like effort becomes instinct. This is how freedom is born from routine, when what once required willpower becomes who you naturally are. Aristotle called this the architecture of virtue. He believed that excellence is not an act, but a habit, something you become through consistent, deliberate choice. Today, we call it neuroplasticity. Your brain doesn't care whether it's training for chaos or calm. It simply strengthens whatever you repeat. That's why discipline is not punishment. It's design. You're constructing the internal infrastructure that allows peace to exist even when the world collapses. The paradox is that chaos feels easier because it requires nothing from you. It's automatic. It's chemical. But peace demands intention. It demands you to choose, again and again, to align your thoughts with your purpose. Discipline doesn't silence emotion. It gives emotion a structure to flow through without flooding your mind. It transforms raw energy into directed movement. When you practice the morning REWIRE sequence, you're not just forming habits, you're performing philosophy. Every breath of control, every deliberate action, is a small rebellion against mental entropy. You're proving to your nervous system that safety doesn't come from comfort, but from consistency. That predictability, not chaos, creates confidence. The human brain thrives when it knows what to expect and collapses when it doesn't. Discipline gives it that rhythm, that cadence, that pulse of certainty it craves to feel safe. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for." To the Stoics, this was freedom, to live in harmony with your nature, not in conflict with your impulses. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's doing what's right, even when you don't want to. It's the power to act with intention, rather than reaction. And neuroscience confirms what the Stoics knew intuitively. Intention rewires attention. The more you direct your focus, the less you're controlled by reflex. Each time you wake up and follow the ritual, the stillness, the breathing, the movement. You're building a conversation between your mind and your body. That conversation is the essence of self-control. The brain begins to recognize that order feels safer than chaos. It starts producing serotonin, endorphins, and dopamine in harmony, not competition. Your chemistry begins to cooperate with your consciousness. This is the silent moment when freedom stops being a dream and starts becoming biology. You stop fighting against your emotions and start navigating through them with precision. You begin to feel an internal spaciousness, a calm strength that doesn't vanish under pressure. That is not suppression. That is sovereignty. When Descartes sought truth, he did not search for comfort. He searched for clarity. That is what this ritual trains you to do. To replace the shallow comfort of distraction with the deep satisfaction of direction. Freedom is not found in avoidance, but in mastery. When you build discipline through ritual, you no longer need motivation, because you've transformed your mind into a system that sustains itself. What once felt like effort becomes nature. And that's when true freedom begins, when your habits become the guardians of your peace. The hidden truth. What they don't want you to know. There's a reason peace feels like rebellion. The world doesn't benefit from your calm, it benefits from your confusion. The entire system, from social media to marketing to the metrics that measure success, thrives on one principle: a distracted mind is a profitable mind. When you lose focus, you buy attention. When you lose control, you search for comfort. And when you're searching for comfort, you stop questioning the structure that keeps you restless. The truth most people never confront is that mental chaos is not just a side effect of modern life. It's the product. Every algorithm you interact with has one mission: to hijack your dopamine. Not because it hates you, but because that's how it survives. You are not the consumer anymore. You are the commodity. The longer you stay stimulated, the more predictable your behavior becomes. And predictability is power. That's the science they don't want you to understand, the biology of obedience. When you open your phone in the morning, you think you're choosing, but the choice has already been designed for you. Thousands of engineers have studied how long your attention holds before boredom sets in, how quickly your thumb scrolls when you're anxious, how colors, sounds, and timing manipulate your emotional responses. They know what kind of content triggers cortisol. They know which tone of voice keeps you listening just a few seconds longer. They're not reading your mind, they're training it. Andrew Huberman once explained that the human brain is built to seek novelty because novelty releases dopamine, and dopamine reinforces learning. But when novelty is infinite, learning collapses. Your brain stops distinguishing between discovery and distraction. It chases stimulation without purpose. That's the hidden cost of constant connectivity. Your brain learns to crave chaos. Every notification becomes a lesson in dependence, every scroll a silent surrender. Cognitive behavioral therapy calls this conditioned helplessness, the gradual erosion of agency through repetition. When every choice is made to soothe discomfort, you forget that discomfort is the birthplace of growth. You stop asking why you feel anxious and start accepting anxiety as identity. You stop questioning fatigue and start calling it normal. The world doesn't need you to be present. It needs you to be predictable. Philosophers like Descartes believed that knowledge begins when you question your perceptions. But questioning has become rare because stillness, the space where insight is born, has been replaced by endless stimulation. The moment you feel silence, you reach for distraction. The moment you feel boredom, you fill it. That's how you stay disconnected from the one voice that can't be manipulated, your own awareness. Here's the unsettling truth. Your biology was never meant to compete with artificial stimulation. Your nervous system evolved for survival, not for constant input. Every advertisement, every feed, every digital rhythm is tuned to exploit the same neurotransmitters that once protected you. Your anxiety isn't a glitch. It's an intelligent response to an environment built to keep you alert. But there's a way out, through awareness, not avoidance. The moment you understand that peace is unprofitable, you begin to see why no one teaches you how to cultivate it. Because a peaceful mind can't be sold to. It can't be manipulated. It doesn't need validation. That's why inner calm is not weakness, it's revolution. The act of waking up, breathing intentionally, and refusing to hand over your attention is a form of resistance more powerful than any algorithm. You don't need to escape technology. You need to reclaim authorship. You need to choose when to connect and when to withdraw. You need to stop feeding systems that feed on your exhaustion. Because the greatest secret they don't want you to know is this: the more peace you build, the less control they have. That's why your ritual matters. It's not just a habit, it's a declaration. Every morning you spend in silence is a vote for freedom. Every conscious breath weakens the machine. Every act of awareness rewrites the narrative that was written for you. They don't want you to know that you can rewire not just your brain but your destiny, one thought at a time. Peace, when built intentionally, is not compliance. It's rebellion. And once your mind remembers what freedom feels like, it never forgets. The inner mirror, reclaiming cognitive sovereignty. Everything begins the moment you turn inward. The war for your peace was never outside of you. It was always fought inside your own nervous system. The external noise, the endless distractions, the constant chase for control are only reflections of an internal disconnection. The greatest illusion of the modern world is that the enemy is out there. The truth is, your greatest battle is against the unconscious part of your own mind that keeps replaying the same story of helplessness. Cognitive sovereignty means taking back authorship over that story. It's the conscious act of saying, "My attention belongs to me." The moment you say that and mean it, your brain begins to reorganize itself around that statement. You no longer live reactively. You begin to live deliberately. You start realizing that every thought carries a chemical consequence. Every belief shapes your perception of reality. And every morning routine either reinforces freedom or deepens dependence. Neuroscience explains this through the mechanism of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself according to what it focuses on most. Each time you bring awareness to your thoughts instead of obeying them, you strengthen the neural circuits of observation. You teach your mind that it can witness without reacting. This is the birth of self-command, the point where awareness becomes more powerful than impulse. Jordan Peterson often speaks about responsibility as the antidote to chaos. In neurobiological terms, responsibility is attention structured by purpose. When you direct your focus toward what you can control, your breathing, your habits, your internal dialogue, you reduce neural noise and strengthen emotional regulation. The body begins to mirror the mind's order. Heart rate stabilizes, cortisol drops, dopamine finds rhythm. The chemistry of your peace aligns with the clarity of your thoughts. But awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with courage. Because the first thing you see when you turn inward isn't beauty. It's truth. You confront the patterns that kept you small, the beliefs that kept you reactive, the fears that disguise themselves as logic. That's why many avoid introspection. It exposes the architecture of their own avoidance. Yet that discomfort is sacred. It's the threshold between unconscious living and conscious creation.
Philosophically, Descartes would call this the mirror of doubt, the stage where questioning everything brings you closer to what is undeniably real. The Stoics called it self-mastery through perception. Neuroscience calls it meta-awareness. Different names, same revelation. When you observe your thoughts without being consumed by them, you regain power over your own programming. You stop being the puppet of old conditioning and become the architect of new identity.
That's what this ritual has been leading you toward, sovereignty over your own cognition. Because peace isn't just the absence of noise, it's the ability to remain still, within noise. It's not about controlling every thought, but about mastering which ones deserve your energy. The more you practice this internal observation, the more you realize that most thoughts are not yours. They're echoes of a culture built on fear, urgency, and comparison. When you stop identifying with them, they lose power instantly. Reclaiming cognitive sovereignty means no longer giving automatic consent to every mental impulse. It means deciding with clarity what gets to live in your mind. It's choosing silence over stimulation, awareness over reaction, truth over convenience. That choice, repeated daily, rewires not only your brain but your entire perception of life. And then something extraordinary happens. Peace stops being fragile. It stops depending on conditions. You can sit in chaos and still feel clarity. You can experience uncertainty without fear, because peace has moved from being external to being internal, from being emotional to being structural. That is the true purpose of this morning ritual. Not to escape the world, but to command your place within it. To wake up not as a participant of someone else's system, but as the conscious designer of your own. This is what they can't touch, the silent authority of a mind that knows itself. The brain that once reacted to everything now responds only to what matters. The person who once lived in noise now speaks from stillness. This is the moment when peace becomes power, and control transforms into creation. The cinematic outro, integration, and future tease. As the sun rises and the world begins to move again, you stand at the threshold between reaction and creation. The noise will return. It always does. But something within you has changed. You've seen the mechanism behind the curtain, the invisible architecture of your own mind. And now you hold the code. You understand that peace isn't a gift. It's a discipline. That control isn't about suppressing the world, but about orchestrating your inner one. This is where the ritual becomes more than a morning act. It becomes the rhythm of your existence. Every repetition is a conversation between you and your biology, between the part of you that survives and the part of you that chooses to live. The stillness you practice each dawn is not weakness. It's the recalibration of an ancient system designed to obey whoever leads it. You've chosen to lead. Think about what's happening right now inside you. Your dopamine no longer spikes for distraction. It steadies for purpose. Your cortisol no longer floods in anticipation. It flows in rhythm with action. Your mind has begun to recognize calm as power, not passivity. You are no longer addicted to chaos. You are addicted to clarity. The same world still exists, but the way you move through it no longer belongs to it. You are not escaping. You are transcending. Philosophers once said that the greatest victory is mastery of the self. Neuroscience now confirms it. The more predictable your habits of calm become, the less reactive your limbic system grows. The more consistent your structure, the freer your creative mind becomes. What you once saw as restriction has transformed into expansion. The ritual doesn't shrink your life, it amplifies it. Because when your internal world is in order, your external world aligns with precision. Jordan Peterson calls this the balance between chaos and order, the place where meaning lives. That's where you stand now, not frozen in discipline, but alive within it. You've turned mornings into sacred ground, into the laboratory where consciousness evolves daily. Every breath, every pause, every deliberate act is your mind declaring, "I am the author now." Look around you. The noise hasn't disappeared, but it no longer defines you. You can hear it without being consumed by it. You can move through uncertainty without losing your center. That's what rewiring truly means. You didn't erase the world. You reclaimed your position within it. And from that position, life begins to respond differently. People feel your calm. Decisions become cleaner. Time slows down, not because it changed, but because your awareness finally caught up to it. Now you know what they never wanted you to understand, that peace is not a privilege, it's a skill, a trainable, measurable, biological ability. And once you've built it, no one can sell it back to you. That's the secret the system can't monetize, the self-sufficient mind. Tomorrow morning, when the world tries again to pull you back into noise, Remember this sequence. Stillness before stimulus, breath before reaction, gratitude before complaint, movement before distraction, visualization before doubt. Each step isn't just a habit, it's an act of rebellion against mental chaos. As you close this chapter, carry the awareness that your mornings are no longer mundane beginnings. They're sacred recalibrations. Each sunrise is another chance to declare psychological independence, another chance to practice the art of peace in a world addicted to noise. And as this ritual becomes your foundation, the question shifts. You no longer ask, "How can I find peace?" Instead, you begin to ask, "What will I build from it?" Because peace without purpose becomes comfort, and comfort is the beginning of decay. But peace with purpose, that's evolution. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your dopamine habits secretly sabotage your purpose, and how to transform that same force into the energy that drives mastery, not distraction. Because now that your mind is still, it's time to make it unstoppable. This is where it begins. The morning you stopped reacting to life and started creating it.